The Mexican titan David Benavidez just called out David Morrell for a fight in January. David Morrell is too high of a risk and too low of a reward for David Benavidez. Even though that is the case, Benavidez thinks that he doesn't really have many options apart from Morrell. Benavidez is adamant at continuing the legacy that the fighters of the 90s left behind, who used to fight anybody and everybody.
Yeah, but for me, there's not really too much other options, you know what I mean? And I just want to, like I said, I want to do my job and be the best, the best of the best. You know what I mean? You see the old fighters, they weren't bitching about who they're fighting, you know, they just fought everybody, you know, and their careers speak for it, so.
Benavidez and Morel were long stalwarts one division down at 168 pounds, but both were being stonewalled by previously undisputed champion Canelo Alvarez, who refused to grant either a title shot despite being top options and holding positions as sanctioning body mandatories for him to defend his crown against. Alvarez instead opted for challengers like Edgar Berlanga and Jaime Munguia. Benavidez wrote on social media regarding his offer to fight David Morrell, "There was a lot of names on the table, but I wanted to give my fans the best fight possible. I reached out to David Morrell and his team to make this happen, and we got the contract done. This fight really gonna be a banger. Two of the best in the division and 2 titles on the line. Let's go." Meanwhile, David Benavidez declared that there are only 2 fights that are best for him, which is either with Canelo Alvarez or David Morrell.
To be honest with you, so there's 2 fights, 2 best fights, me and Canelo, and me and Morel. They'll be really good fights, bro. I mean, I feel like they have to get his name a little bit bigger, but I mean, I'll fight him whenever. It really don't matter to me, but yeah, that's a great fight right there.
Furthermore, Benavidez discussed that David Morrell can have all the skills and experience in the world, and he still wouldn't beat him. Benavidez was unsure as to how much experience Morrell has, but he considers him a worthy opponent.
I mean, he could have all the experience in the world. He's not going to beat me ever. I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's inexperienced. You know, he's a good fighter. He's been boxing a long time.
Instead of continuing to wait and hope for a call to come from the Golden Duck Canelo Alvarez, both fighters decided to make the move up to light heavyweight where there were more options. Benavidez bested Alexander Gvozdyk in June to claim the interim WBC title in the division. Furthermore, David Benavidez compared both David Morrell and his own fight with Caleb Plant. Benavidez shared that he doesn't get credit for having a good defense and throwing good punch combinations.
Is it a tougher fight than the Caleb Plant fight was?
I don't know. I'm going to have to get in there and see. I don't know yet.
Well, I asked because, you know, he's got some of that footwork Plant had, but he seems like a bigger guy.
Yeah, but with him, he throws more and like with bad intentions, but he leaves himself open too. And I'm a good counterpuncher, and I have good defense too. A lot of people don't give me credit for my defense. You know, I really get hit too much with Caleb Plant. I never really get hit that much.
Meanwhile, Jose Benavidez Sr. noted that Morel is getting better with each fight and stated that he is going to be tough to beat in the future. Jose Sr. mentions, "Every fight he's getting more and more experience. I'd rather fight Morel now because I think he's lacking enough experience." Jose Sr. mentioned that waiting could actually be troublesome for David Benavidez, and he further elaborated on David Morel as a fighter. "He's a good fighter, and we would love to fight Dav. Later on, he's going to get more experience, it's going to be a little bit more difficult." Meanwhile, former boxer Paulie Malignaggi thinks that David Benavidez and Morel should fight at 168 pounds rather than 175 pounds in order to keep the pressure on Canelo Alvarez. Paulie was of the opinion that both fighters need to warm up at 175 before they can take on the 2 monsters of that division, which are Bivol and Beterbiev.
You know, it's a matchup that's solid. The weight class that happens, that really matters to me. You know, are they going to stay at 175? I think if they're going to fight each other, they might as well make it at 168 and keep their foot on Canelo's neck, you know, and then make it more obvious that he's ducking either one of them. If they make the fight at 175, it has less luster. It's still a good fight. And to be honest, I think both guys could probably use 1 or 2 more fights at 175 before they take on the winner of that monster fight between Beterbiev and Bivol.
Paulie shared that fighting at 168 for both Benavidez and Morel has some significant advantages. Malignaggi further commented, "If they fight at 168, this would show that they can both still make 168 and they're more than willing to make 168 for the right fights. It would change around our entire 168-pound rankings, which we did recently, and like I said, it would keep their foot on Canelo's neck, because he's gonna not fight either of them." Furthermore, former boxer Chris Algieri really loves that Benavidez has declared his fight with Morel. Chris was of the opinion that Benavidez would make this bold move a lot sooner, so Canelo would be under immense pressure at all times, but the matchup is still interesting.
I mean, I actually love this fight. I thought that Benavidez was going to make this move earlier. I thought he was going to do it when they were both still at 168 because he was not getting the Canelo fight. And, I mean, how do you How do you put even more pressure than you already have? Well, go fight the other guy that doesn't seem to want that Canelo doesn't seem to want to fight, and that's David Morrell. And in terms of him saying he woke up and had an epiphany, man, I just love the way Benavidez moves. Him and Tim Tszyu, man, they just talk the way you want your fighters to talk. They talk the way you want your champions to talk.
Similarly, boxing trainer Robert Garcia sees Benavidez versus Morel as a thrilling matchup. Though Morel is relatively inexperienced, Garcia considers him a serious threat, but still favors Benavidez due to his greater experience. He's excited the fight is happening early, with both fighters in their prime.
They're marinated yet, you know, but they're two monsters, like monsters, you know what I mean?
If the Canelo fight's not there, then that's the fight that I would like to see. Definitely, 100%.
With Benavidez, right, the knock on him, what they try saying is, well, he hasn't beat no one. He's bigger than everybody, and that's why he wins, right? That's what they say. Morel's bigger than David.
Yeah,
I tell people, don't believe that 6'1" stuff that they say on Boxer. He's a legit 6'3".
It'll just be a great fight because Morel has great power, great. You know, he's hungry. He wants to be huge in boxing. So I really think it'll make it a good fight. I still pick Benavidez.
Robert Garcia talks about Cuban fighters like Morel and Mexican boxers like Benavidez and Canelo. He says Cuban fighters usually have the upper hand in the early rounds because they're fast and have solid amateur backgrounds. But Mexican fighters tend to shine in the later rounds, especially after the 6th, because of their endurance and their focus on body shots. When it comes to rivalries, Garcia thinks the classic Mexico versus Puerto Rico rivalry is still the biggest one. He doesn't see Mexico versus Cuba becoming a major rivalry because Cuban fighters don't have as many fans in the US, and boxing isn't as big in Cuba due to restrictions. On the other hand, David Benavidez even shared a fight poster of him and Morel face-to-face before the fight has even been announced, showing his boldness out in public. On the flip side, David Morel shared that he is ready for Benavidez at 175, and this fight is only for Benavidez and the fans.
Only for Benavidez, no hands, so, you know. But no, he's a good guy. I respect Benavidez, no. So I respect, but I want to fight hands. Everybody wanted this fight. You know, me and hands. So it's only for this, not for no personality, not for nothing. You know, no personal. So it's only like everybody want to see like him, me. Hands the best. For me, 175. So I'm coming for the best at 175. So I want to fight him only for this, you know.
Additionally, David Benavidez's promoter, Samson Lukowicz, was unsure if David Benavidez will be fighting WBA regular light heavyweight champion David Morel next in December. When asked if the Benavidez-Morel fight is happening next, Lukowicz said that certain complications would restrict the fight. Lukowicz says he's unsure if Morel will be next, and he's not saying whether Jesse Hart could be the opponent for Benavidez. Fans hope to see Benavidez fight Morel because that would be a huge fight involving two top 175-pounders. The winner would be able to fight for the undisputed or one of the fragmented titles if Artur Beterbiev ends up with the belts. He may move up to cruiserweight if he's victorious in his 4-belt clash against Dimitri Bivol on October 12th. Samson added his comments on the choice of fighter. Let me put it this way. The promoter of David Morel is my lawyer for 30 years, so it would be a conflict of interest to represent me. So I'm out of the deal. I don't know who Benavidez is fighting next and who will be next. For this particular fight, I'm not involved. Furthermore, David Benavidez commented on the special weakness that he can exploit when he fights Morel. He said that Morel leaves himself open a lot, so he will get caught with some good punch combinations, which will give the fans a very exciting fight.
How much? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of stuff I can do right there, and especially fighting a fighter like that is going to bring the best out of me. So I'm ready for whatever comes my way.
You mentioned it. Leaves himself open in between punches. Is that what would get him beat up?
Yeah, and his body shots. You know what I mean? He's a lefty, so the left hook to the body is the easiest shot to hit. You know what I mean? So he's never fought somebody that has those body shots I throw, the combinations I throw. I don't think he's fought somebody as big as me. You know, we're pretty much the same size, you know, same height. You know, and it's going to be a good fight.
In addition, Bob Santos acknowledges David Benavidez's impressive skills and versatility. Santos confidently positions Morel as the standout fighter who could redefine the sport and may even be the next Roy Jones Jr.
You never want to try to compare people too much because sometimes, you know, LeBron James is going to be the next Michael Jordan, so on and so forth. And maybe I'm guilty of that too because I was like, David Morrell is going to be another Roy Jones Jr., right? But I do believe that. I think he's a superior talent. I think he's head and shoulders above everybody else. I think David Benavidez is a tremendous fighter. I mean, the first time I ever seen him and he was working out and I was fortunate enough to be around him and his father while they were training and be brought into one of his camps. I was like, wow, this guy's like a savant. He could just do everything.
Bob Santos discussed that David Benavidez can really box, which was obvious by the punch combinations that he threw at Caleb Plant. Bob commented that he favors David Morrell more than Benavidez, and said, that being said, I do favor David Morrell. Obviously, people are going to say, well, it's because you're working with him now and you're not working with him now. No, I think physically, obviously, Benavidez has the experience, but I think Morrell physically is a little bit more gifted than Benavidez. Santos stated that Morrell is very athletic, and he really sees him winning against Benavidez. On the other hand, boxing promoter Eddie Hearn previously commented that Benavidez has to prove himself against Caleb Plant, and then he can call out Canelo to win a big fight with him.
It kind of comes across that he doesn't really have an interest in fighting David. You talking to him, does he have an, like, is that a fight that, like, he looks at him and be like, you know what, I want that?
You have to earn your fight in some way. You have to have a belt, you have to have a big win, and I think Sal acknowledges that victory over Caleb Plant would give him shouting rights to say, me. So if he wins that fight, I think he should start calling out Canelo Alvarez.
Additionally, the vice president of communications at Haymon Sports, Tim Smith, said that both fighters were forced to abandon 168 because of the fight that they couldn't get. Both Benavidez and Morel have worked regularly with Haymon's premier boxing champions. While talking about Morel, Tim added, he's another guy that just sort of has abandoned 168 because the fight that everybody wants at 168 is just not available to him or David Benavidez. I know a lot of people are like, he should fight David Benavidez. Well, at 175, that might end up happening. We'll see. That would be a war. That would be an absolute war. Smith further added on Morel's skills as a fighter. I think Morel versus Benavidez can be a good fight, but I think David Morel is at a different level at this point. Not a lot of people want to get in the ring with him. He's got some really heavy hands, and he's very skilled. He's been working with trainer Ronnie Shields, and I think that truly has helped him. Even though there may be many pros favoring Benavidez, Canelo Alvarez recently slammed David Benavidez for his lackluster performance against Alexander Gvozdyk, proving his animosity against the Titan David Benavidez. Canelo commented, I think that's his weight class 175 pounds, and you can see he's very different. He can't do nothing with a fighter who retired in 2019. It's different when you're in your weight class and fighting with guys in your weight. On the contrary, David Benavidez doesn't think that Canelo deserves to be called a champion since he is avoiding him and Morel. Benavidez weighed in on why Canelo should take him on, saying, at the end of the day, if you hold all the titles, you've got to fight the best in the division. I'm the #1 contender, and the second guy is David Morel. Canelo isn't fighting either of us, so how can he call himself the champion? On the contrary, David Morel was furious at Canelo for avoiding him and Benavidez all this time, so he let out his anger in an interview session. Speaking with a group of reporters, it appears David Morel got sick and tired of the perpetual questionnaire on Canelo Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga's September 14th feature. Morel blasted the reporter, man, this fight's everybody knows. I don't want any more questions about this fight. It's crazy. Additionally, Alvarez is not looking into David Benavidez's call-out either, which has become well known, suggesting how Canelo Alvarez has been going after less challenging opponents. David Morel felt, Berlanga is easy for him. Everybody's here. I'm not talking. Everything's here. For me, this fight's like Benavidez, Morel is undefeated. The Cuban has 9 knockouts from 11 wins and won his maiden 175 bout against Radivoje Kalidzic in August. Benavidez was in talks to fight fringe contender Jesse Hart on December 14th on the undercard of the Gervonta Davis-Lamont Roach title bout, according to sources, but he secured a far more compelling bout. Boxing promoter Oscar De La Hoya gave Benavidez some crucial advice for being patient before getting big fights. De La Hoya said that David should keep knocking on the doors and wait for his turn.
Did Benavidez mention at all, like, his frustrations of not getting the big fights, and what advice did you give him?
I told him, look, you have to be patient. That's it. Just keep knocking on the door. Eventually it'll open up. I mean, they can't keep that door locked for so long. Eventually, if you keep knocking on it, it's going to open. So just have patience. He's young. He's still learning. He's still growing. So he understood, but obviously fighters get frustrated. They get antsy. They want to fight the very big, the biggest fights out there. There's always the public demand. There's always that public pressure. But you can just stay on your course, stay in your lane, and eventually those big fights will happen.
Do you think that David Morel is better than David Benavidez? Who do you see winning by knockout? We would love to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comments section below and subscribe for more content like this.